The tutorial we're going to take a look at today actually comes from the forums at the NAF member website. And someone submitted an image similar to this one. I actually just recreated it here, but what they wanted to know is how to create these wavy type lines here in CS2. One of them is this wavy graphic that you see right here, the blue background, but most notably here, they had these wavy lines in it, and it almost kind of looked like a little wavy mesh looking thing. But it's actually really easy to do with Photoshop CS2. You don't have to know how to draw, you don't have to know how to use the pen tool. You can just use the warp feature. So let me show you here real quick. So let's go ahead and let me just hide some of these layers, and let's just start with that blue box that we saw. Now what I'll do here is just set my foreground color to a bluish color. Click OK. And I'm going to select my shape tool. I'm going to use the rectangle tool here. Make the canvas a little bit larger. And up here in the shape options, make sure you choose shape layers. And just draw just kind of a square rectangle shape right there on the canvas. Now, to make it wavy, what you want to do is go to the edit menu and go down to, go to the edit menu and go down to transform path and go to warp. Or the keyboard shortcut that I usually do, I hate going to the edit menu. And what I usually do is press Control or Command T, and then right up here in the options bar, you'll see that you can switch between free transform and warp mode. So you got that little toggle button up there. And one other little tip for you here, look under the file menu and look under close. Now if you don't use Control or Command and W to close your images a lot, but you do use the warp tool a lot, that's a good keyboard shortcut to look at changing, just because it makes it easier to get into warp mode. But anyway, that's besides the point. So now let's go in here and let's transform this shape. And what I'll do here is go from custom, I'll go down to flag, and you can just drag this little box right here. You can just drag that up or down, create yourself a nice little wavy shape. You can put your cursor inside, you can move it around. You can do whatever you need to with it. And then once you get that basic flag wave shape here, what you want to do is go back over to custom, and now I'm going to press Control or Command 0, and that's going to put this so I can fit it all in the frame here, and just grab these handles, and now you can kind of control some of the height or steepness of some of these waves here, and you can control each point individually here. So it makes it a lot easier to work with some of the warp tools here. So I'm just going to kind of finesse this to get it the way I want it to look. Press the Enter key, and now you're done. So now you've got that wavy shape that we had in the background here. And I'll hide this and I'll show the other layers just so you can see it here. We'll delete that layer. So that's essentially one way to get that wavy shape in the background. Now let's take a look at the lines though. And they're on a layer here. So what I'm going to do is hide this layer, and let's go ahead and we're going to use our shape tools again, but this time I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to set my weight to 4 pixels and then click this little arrow right here, and just make sure you don't have any arrowheads at the start or the end there. And then go ahead and set your foreground color to white and use your arrow tool. Again, we're going to use this shape option up here and just kind of move this over here and just draw a line right across your image. And if I click off of it, you can see now we have a white line. So what I'm going to do here, little trick, I'm going to duplicate this layer. Okay, so now I've got 2. And then I'm going to go into free transform mode, and that's Control T. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to kind of nudge it down a little bit. There we go, and press the Enter key. Now I'm going to use another shortcut here, and this one saves a lot of time. I'm going to hold down the Control, Alt, and the Shift keys. Okay, on the Mac that's going to be the Command, Option, and Shift, and then press T a bunch of times and watch what happens. See, Photoshop is not only recreating a bunch of lines for me, see, it's also putting them all on one shape layer for me. So then just take this one, we'll delete it, we don't need it anymore. Now I've got all my lines on a shape layer, and I'm going to do kind of the same thing I did with this wavy object up here. I'm going to press Control or Command T to go into free transform. Now let's go into warp mode, and then I'm going to use the flag option up here, and let's just, maybe we'll kind of warp it upward a little bit. And then come in here, go to custom, and just kind of finesse it just a little bit here, kind of bring these in a little bit to kind of scrunch the bottom part of it. You'll see they all kind of scrunch together right at the bottom. And up at the top, I'll kind of spread them out a little bit to kind of make it look like it's almost expanding as it gets towards the top here. Now if you ever need to, you can just flip back into free transform mode. You can always move it around. You can make it a little bit smaller if you want to. You can hold down the control key and you can kind of skew it a little bit if you want to. But here's the nice thing about doing what we just did and creating the lines that way is notice it's a shape layer. So no matter what we do here inside of Warp or in Free Transform, once I press the Enter key, I'm still going to have nice crisp lines here. So if I zoom in to 100%, and you'll see that we do have these nice crisp lines in here. And if I need to, I can always go back into free transform mode, change the shape of it, go back into warp mode, do the same thing again, come back in here and change the shape to whatever I want to. So you can get some pretty cool effects in there, and it's just using the warp tool. So you can create those mesh-like effects, some wavy lines, very popular in some magazine ads. I was on a plane the other day. I saw a bunch of techniques that used something very similar to that. And the last thing you'd want to do here, probably just drop the opacity down a little bit, but that's our final image here. So essentially, just keep in mind, use that warp tool. Think of different ways that you can use it because there's a lot to it. Now, where this tutorial came from is the NAP member website in the forum. So if you're not using the forums in the NAP member website, get in there. There's a lot of good people in there. It's really picked up a lot lately, and there's a lot of great questions being answered. So either get in there and ask questions or go in there and help out and answer some questions. So thanks. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you again next time.